sound of that tractor means it's time to go to work. Welcome to the Give Us the Dirt podcast powered by HGC. My name is Brandon Lindsay, and I am your host. We've got something pretty exciting for you today. This is going to be a great episode, but before we get into today, I want to take just a moment to say thank you. We started this idea of having the Give Us the Dirt podcast with no idea what the response was going to be. Didn't know how it was going to fly, if you guys would be listening at all, and we were absolutely blown away by the response after our first episode with Brian McManus. The emails, the text messages, the calls, it was just coming in from everywhere, and we were so excited that you guys loved it, that you listened, and that you enjoyed hearing what Brian had to say, and looking forward to hearing more of the Give Us the Dirt podcast. So thank you so much. Thank you to all of those that subscribed. If you haven't yet, please subscribe to the podcast so that you can get more of the latest content as it comes out. And without further ado, we're going to jump into today because I am so pumped about this. On episode 0, we told you that we were going to be talking to the men and women that have built the cities in which we live and work. We wanted to hear their stories. We wanted to hear their successes. We wanted to just talk to them and find out what's made them successful. Well, there is no better story than the one you're about to hear today. This is one of those success stories that they make movies about, right? If I'm making you uncomfortable yet?
Yes.
Our guest today is someone that I absolutely admire. I consider him a dear friend. He has taught me a great deal about business and life over the years, and I'm sure he's done the same for many of you that are listening today. Denton, welcome to the Give Us the Dirt podcast.
Thank you, I think. We'll figure out here in a minute, see how it goes.
Too soon to know, right?
Yes.
So when you came in this morning, someone from the team asked him, said, have you ever been on a podcast before?
I really don't even know what a podcast is.
That is great. Denton, you're going to be awesome, man. This is just me and you having a conversation just like we have over the last 20 years. I am a huge fan of yours and a huge fan of your story. I think I know most of it, but I can't wait to find out what I don't know. And so I'm excited to be able to share that with our listeners today. So Denton Williams is the owner and president of Blue Max Trucking. Denton, real quick, I want to introduce you to our listeners. And The way that we do that here is I want you to pretend that your wife is at a concert with some of her friends, and somebody comes up to her and they say, "Hey, you're married. Tell us about your husband." What does she say?
Well, first thing, you probably have a hard time getting her attention because she'd be singing every word. But she'd probably start laughing and then point at me and said, "That's what I got." You know, looking at me, she said, "He is what he is, and that's what I got right there."
Is she not even going to try to change you?
No, sir.
You are what you are.
Yeah, pretty much.
Well, I say she did good, and you did too because I know your wife. And so you guys are awesome. Great couple.
Over 40 years now. So.
40 years of marriage. Congratulations. That's awesome. So Blue Max Trucking, I know a lot of us in the Charlotte industry, if you don't know Blue Max Trucking in Charlotte, then you need to check your pulse, right? We see these trucks everywhere. But for a lot of our listeners that may not know, tell us about Blue Max Trucking. What is Blue Max? How many employees? Just give us the 60-second commercial on Blue Max Trucking.
Blue Max is a trucking company. We've got a great team, got people. I've always talked to my employees about sports, and I compare work to sports and putting the right people together. It takes a whole combination of everybody to make it work. Blue Max is dump trucks, which we have triaxles, quads, tractor trailers. We haul dirt, asphalt, sand. Like you said, there are more Blue Max trucks than city buses in Charlotte, so we've had a great presence in Charlotte. We've been very lucky. We've expanded in other markets. We've done a lot of work. Charlotte's been really good to Denton Williams as far as that personally. Charlotte's been good to Blue Max Trucking as a company and growing. Right now, we've probably 300 dump trucks and 150 flatbeds running as far as that through the whole organization. So a lot of good people. I've had great people that have helped me along the way, helped me get started. worked with me. I've still got employees who, when I started, they're still with me today. So it's not all about me. It's about the team aspect of Blue Max.
I love that. And we're going to get into that a little bit more because you do a great job of building that team. And just so everyone knows, you said 300 trucks, 150 flatbeds. That's 450 trucks. That's 450 drivers.
Correct.
That's 450 teammates and families that you have, that are part of this. And so we're going to get into that a little bit more, but I love to hear you say the analogies to sports. I love how you're building a team and you realize that it takes everybody to accomplish what you guys have. And it's pretty remarkable when you see it. And you talk about having more trucks than the city of Charlotte has buses. And that's pretty incredible. Let's talk more about that. But first, I want to know, what was it? How did you get into this, right? How did you start? Well, how did you get into construction and more specifically the trucking business?
When I was young, like my dad he worked for a trucking company, worked with my uncle, and my dad pushed me to work as far as that. When I wasn't playing summertime, when I wasn't playing Little League baseball or doing something like that, I was working. I mean, so it goes back to him putting the work ethic into me. At that point in time, this probably date me, but that's when Brookshire Freeway and now it's John Belt Freeway was being built across there. Things are so different back then, but at 12 to 14, I guess I was 14 years old, and like that, they put me on a Caterpillar dirt loader, loading dirt, at a dirt bank. That wasn't my cup of tea, sitting there looking at a dump truck all day, backing in and loading dirt. So when I got old enough, which at that time was 18, I got a CDL license to start driving trucks because I'd a whole lot rather be out and riding up down the highway than I was looking at that bank of dirt. So at that point in time, actually when I started driving. And so I drove a truck for a while. Then I kept driving. Actually, they were building Catawba Nuclear Plant, just starting it when I was still driving a truck myself. Run back and forth from Martin Marietta to Airwood on a daily basis. And that's pretty much what I did for a long time. And then I got promoted to dispatcher, and then started from a dispatcher. I worked my way up in the company, which was F.T. Williams, and did a little bit of everything. But to back up just a minute, I mean, as far as being trucks, like instead of just running that, if it was raining, I was in the grease pit, or my dad made me work in the shop. So I know a little bit of. I'm not an expert, and don't even think about classifying myself as a mechanic, but I know a little bit about every part of the trucking industry. So from working at changing tires to greasing to pulling transmissions to whatever. So I've done a little bit of all of it.
So I want to make sure I got this timeline right, which it's crazy to me. You said you were running heavy equipment at 13 and 14 years old.
That's correct.
See, I've got a 14-year-old at home that can barely operate a bicycle.
Right. And
you're out on the roadway and you're running heavy equipment at 13 and 14.
It was a Caterpillar 977 is what the track loader was.
That's incredible. That's incredible. So you start driving the truck, you go into, when did you start at F.T. Williams?
Well, I graduated high school in 72 and then thought I was going to go to college, which actually did not. At that particular time, it just wasn't for me. I went to classes, but then all of a sudden I started not going to classes. At that time, that's before Diane, I'd go see my girlfriend. And so my dad found out about that. And so he said, look, that's the end of that. You're going to work. So at that point in time, that's what I did. I went to work, started driving. At that time, you had your CDLs and you started driving trucks.
So you're driving for F.T. Williams at that time.
Yes.
And then at some point, then you're in this and you say, hey, you know what? I want to do this myself, right? So when does that happen? When does that shift happen and you decide, hey, I don't want to drive for anybody else anymore? I think that.
Well, at that particular time, actually, I was a dispatcher and I'd been dispatching the trucks. And I started I think at that particular time they had 35 or 40 trucks, company trucks. But we started building the trucking part of it started building up. So at that point in time, I was running a lot of owner operators. So the owner operators were building and building and building. And at that particular time, there were really two major dump truck companies in Charlotte, North Carolina. One was F.T. Williams, the other was Hickman Brothers. And so at that time, I guess I would say I was a pain in the side of Hickman Brothers because I was bidding against them. And I like to say that hard work and all was picking up a lot of the work, which it was. But I mean, like at that particular time, you bid to hauling for the city of Charlotte or in big jobs. You weren't really bidding to construction companies the way you are right now. So I was doing that. And so I built a lot of trucks. And when I say a lot, probably added 30 or 40 more owner operators to the fleet. So at that particular time, you probably run 70 trucks.
At FT?
Correct.
Still. So tell me about the time when did you start Blue Max? When did Blue Max come up?
Blue Max started November of 1984.
84
is when it started.
So tell me about that transition from FT to Blue Max.
Well, Mr. Hickman at Hickman Brothers approached me, and I was a dispatcher, and he asked me one day, I think we were at a function at either Goodyear or at that particular time was Gerard Tire. And he approached me and he said, I know you're over there, but have you ever thought about doing this for yourself? And I said, yes, sir, I've thought of it several times like that. And so he said, what if we talk one day together? So I met him for lunch, and we went to lunch, and he started asking me a lot of questions, as far as that. And so I thought about it, and at that particular time, really we'd just been married a few years, maybe 4 or 5 years. At that particular time, I've got 2 boys. One's Jeremiah, one's Seth. Jeremiah was 23 months old, and Seth was 6 months old. And I always tell people all the time, I said, you got to be happy what you do. I said, every day is not perfect, but you got to be happy at work. You're at work more than you are at home. And so I came home and I just told Diane, which is my wife, and I said, I just feel like a hypocrite. I said, I'm not living who I say I am. So at that particular time, I quit. I went back to them and turned my notice in, and they asked me to give them start with, they wanted 6 weeks notice as far as that. And I said, I can't do that, but I said, I'll try. And so then actually the next day when I came into work, they asked me for my keys. And so pretty well out the door I went. So I came home, and at that particular time, like I said, I think it was 84. And I think at that particular time, we just bought a house, and I think interest rates were like 14 to 15% or 13% or something like that. And Diane's freaking. And so I said, worst case scenario, I said, I know what I'm really good at. I can drive a truck. So we went and I started, talked to Mr. Hickman. We rented a little single bay shop off of Gribble Road, off of Highway 115. You couldn't even put a whole truck in there at that particular time. If you put a dump truck in there, half of it's hanging out the back. And then the size of this room was bigger than the office part of that building.
What an awesome story, Denton. What an awesome, and there's so much of that I haven't heard, which I knew was going to happen today. And I can tell just watching you tell this story, you still get emotional about it. Like this is your life. And the fact that, number one, the Hickman brothers, they got sick of you beating them. And they got tired of you being a pain in their side, and they said, "You know what? If we can't beat him, let's join him and let's hire the guy."
To a degree, I mean, they were really smart themselves. So all of a sudden, they got me, and they started coasting a little bit more. Yep. Now, I don't have I mean, I've got people in my organization that are good as me. I mean, or better than me. Let me rephrase that. And, my son coming up through it, he's doing a great job now too.
Denton, I want to share something with you. So, you mentioned that at that time, 1984, right? I mean, it was a huge leap of faith.
Oh, yeah.
And you guys, it was a tough time. You had this 14% interest rate. You just been married. You got kids coming. Jeremiah was 24 months.
23, I think.
23 months.
They're 17 months apart, so that'd be correct.
So I got something here I wanted to share with you. Look up here. You recognize those folks?
Yes, sir. Look at that hairdo.
I know it. Who is that in the picture with you up top?
That's Diane.
Diane. And that Diane said that's when you guys had gone out and just bought your first trucks. They'd just been delivered.
Well, we actually went to pick them up. They were, at that particular time, they were Fords. They were bodies were put on in Nashville. So at that particular time, myself, Tim Hawkins, Orvis Andrews, several of us, people that worked for me and all, went up there to pick them up. We flew to Nashville and went through Nashville town over that weekend, then got in those trucks to drive back on Sunday. Those were the roughest riding trucks I've ever been in my life. You had to they had a worse suspension under them, but we bought them, so that's what we were stuck with. We ended up letting half the air out of the tires on the way back. So it was just a long way from Nashville to back to Charlotte. I'll put it that way.
I love this picture because, you're looking at 5 trucks in this picture right here. A significant investment, I got to imagine at that time, especially for someone just being married, just left their job, and got kids. And there's Diane by your side saying, Denton, this is a crazy idea, but I'm with you.
Yep.
And to this day, she's still there.
Oh, yeah.
And by your side, supporting your crazy ideas. And what about the picture at the bottom right?
That's show and tell at, actually, I think that was Gar Memorial Church, or where Jeremiah and them went to play school. So that's pretty cool. That's a pretty big show and tell for the kids that day.
I bet. He's about as tall as the tire on the truck.
Yep.
So, yeah, as a kid, and you seeing all this equipment and these big old trucks, that's pretty cool. So you can tell he was proud of his daddy, and you enjoyed telling him the story. And Jeremiah's still in the business, right?
Correct.
So Jeremiah's there and running the day-to-day?
Jeremiah's there, yes, sir. He's day-to-day operating. He was a whole different story when we started. I got a good friend in the Myrtle Beach market that in the grading business down there, and he asked me about bringing trucks to help him. And I said, I'll be glad to. At that particular time, Jeremiah wasn't with Blue Max, but I said, I'm going to bring him in and try to train him. And, he'd been around trucks, been in the shop, been around the mechanics hanging out. When they were young, they used to get on the creepers in the shop. And the mechanics would push them back and forth across the shop floor. So, I mean, it wasn't total brand new to him, but coming into the office part to run it, it was getting ready to be. He came into the office, and I was going to try to train him up for 6 months to go. My buddy called me, and he said, you're not going to believe this, but they pulled the trigger and fast-tracked this job, so I need trucks down there Monday. So I actually sent Jeremiah back to Conway, South Carolina, is where the shop is, to start, and just threw him to the wolves, to be honest. So School of Hard Knocks teaches you pretty good.
It does. But I have to imagine you were there, help him along the way, and it's pretty cool that your story started out with your dad, and Jeremiah's story started out with you, and it's cool to see that just continue to go from generation to generation. Didn't these are white trucks?
Yeah, they are at that particular time. The first trucks we bought, you couldn't really spec. So those trucks, the first white trucks, which were the Sterlings up there, or the Fords, we just put a blue stripe down the side of them like you'll see on this Mac. but all of a sudden it didn't make sense to have a white truck.
So how do you go from this? And then tell us about the name. And because the trucks aren't white anymore.
No, all the trucks are blue. The name came at that particular time when started Blue Max. We were in, I was born in Monroe, so there's no skyscrapers in Monroe like there were downtown Charlotte. So my brother-in-law at that time worked for one of the banks downtown Charlotte. So I told him what we were doing. He said, I can get you lined up with a lawyer. So we went to the lawyer's office downtown. I think we were on the 30th floor in this lawyer's office. And I was amazed being up. That's the first time I've been in a building like that to start with and looking out over downtown Charlotte. You see everything. So I'm sitting there, and every name I had, I had my two sons' initials, Jay and Seth, for Jeremiah and Seth, tried to get that. I had Eagle Trucking. I had names picked out to go through it. And every time the lady would run back there and call Raleigh to see if get the federal ID number and the corporate name wasn't taken, she'd come back and it was taken. So all of a sudden, it sounds crazy, but they walked out of the room. I looked at my brother-in-law and I said, I can't imagine what is this costing? Because it just kept an hour. Took forever to try to get a name. So it got down to what's your favorite color, which is blue. And then the lawyer said, what kind of trucks are you going to run? And I said, well, Fords and Max. He said, well, how about Blue Mac? I said, no, let's try Blue Max. So I was about ready to name it anything to get out of there.
So you just wanted the clock to stop turning. You wanted the billing to stop, and you said, just name it. Yes. Blue Max it is.
That's it.
I love it. I love it. Didn't you? You've alluded to a couple times throughout our conversation here. You've alluded to friends you've had in the business and people you've met along the way, people that have encouraged you and inspired you and helped you. Tell us about some of those people. You've been in this business a long time. You've met a lot of people. You've seen this city transform, and you've been a part of that. Like, who are the people in your life that you would consider mentors? Who are the people that you turned to for advice and direction as you were trying to build this thing?
Well, I guess it had to start originally with my dad. He was a lot more conservative than I am. Even, people say that. I always used to say that. My dad never really took risk as far as that, or I don't think he did. But he always provided. There was a mechanic named Orvis Andrews that worked over there that he put me with, and he taught me the ethic of work and to do what you're supposed to. My uncle, which was FT at that time, he was always good to me. Then I met Mr. Hickman. And his brother, Jacob, they were good to me also. Mr. Hickman really was a smart man and knew the business inside and out, And I knew a lot, but I didn't know as much as I thought I did till I was around him. Then you got, there's a gentleman named Bob Holt that worked over at FT that, like I said, even before I was 13, I'd have to go to work. And then when they were tearing down houses and all, I had a side hustle. I'd go out and pull cast iron and scrap out from when they were tearing the houses down and all like that. So just those guys taught me hard work as far as mentors and all like that. Even today, I've still got people that I run stuff by all the time. My employees, it's not it's a democracy. So we always talk, I guess is the word I'm trying to say, and try to talk out things to better. One thing I always tell people, I said, if you got a better mousetrap, tell me about it. As far as that, we're not set in stone how we do business. We're always looking to improve. A lot of key employees that I've had that have, worked for me and they've retired and left, they helped me a lot along the way. So
that's pretty cool, Denton, that, to have those men in your life that helped get you to where you are. But what I love hearing about you is that you're not done learning. you're still learning every day, and you're learning from people that are working for you. You're learning from your own team members.
Always been told when you think you know everything, you get ready to die. So there's no hurry. I'm not in a hurry to do that. So,
yeah, there's no end to learning.
No.
So you mentioned something there. You said your dad was a little bit more conservative. You said that he was a little bit less willing to take risk, and I don't see that in you. Matter of fact, Denton, you are one of those people, in my opinion, that I look at you and I hear your story and I see this thing that you've been a part of building, and I think, man, this guy, everything he touches turns to gold. And I'm like one of these guys, everything I touch turns to poop, right? So whatever you're involved with is successful. It turns to gold. And so you've been a part of some pretty big deals over the course of your career. You get deals presented to you all the time. Buy this. Let's go to this market. We want you to do this. Be a part of this project. Tell me your secret. Like, how do you evaluate the deals? How do you say yes to this one, no to that one? What are you looking for in those deals? What do you consider has to be there, and what do you consider something that, nope, that's a deal breaker?
Let me back up. One thing you said, I've got into certain things that turn into poop, like you're talking also. I tell people I got in the restaurant business one time, and everybody needs one of those so they know what they don't want in life. So I get that out.
That's good to know, because I didn't think you had any of those. So it's good to know you did have one.
I did. The main thing is who you're working with and who's part of the, back to again, you're only as good as your team, and your team being your employees. But also when you're bidding a job, you're only as good as a team. And then, the main thing that I look at, are you going to get paid? So all of a sudden, that's the main part right off the bat. Are you working with somebody that you trust and you got reliability into, and going to be able to make it happen? So, all of a sudden when you join up with somebody, you want to be sure that you're part of the team that's going to make it work, because their reputation, your reputation, everybody's on the line at one time. I don't want to fail, and they don't want to fail. So you pair up with who you're working for.
Well, your reputation is well known, Denton. I think everyone knows that you're going to do what you say you're going to do, and you're going to follow through, and you're going to do it well. But you're saying that when you get into these situations, you're evaluating the person. It's more about the person and whether or not they can deliver on what they're saying they can deliver.
A lot, yes, sir. Which, not necessarily the person, but the company that you're teaming up with.
That's great. That's great. So trucking business, that's a tough business. It's a lot, as far as risk, there's a lot of risk involved with having 450 drivers out on the road every day and in these trucks. So you are definitely not risk adverse. You have taken a lot of risk, but the trucking business is tough too, because it's very competitive, right? Anybody can be in the trucking business. I can walk out of here today and buy one truck, and all of a sudden I'm in the trucking business.
Correct.
So how do you compete with that? How do you stay on top in an industry, in a business where it's so easy to get into?
You've just got to have the right people. I mean, there again, I keep talking about people. I've got great drivers, and I've got drivers been with me for, 30 years on some of them, and that's what part right now with Jeremiah, I tell him, I said, if you look at where we are, a lot of the people are starting to age out, maybe me included one day, but you just got to pick and choose the right people. As far as training, we try to do a lot of training ourselves within the organization. It's not just it's that team aspect again, but you got your mechanics that are involved in it, and preach to them and tell them, look, your family, my family, everybody's families out there on the highway on a daily basis. Never take a chance. Always have the best. If you think these brakes need relining, reline the brakes. If you ever have a tire that you think's getting too slack or too tread about to go away, take it off. I said, just got to have it. As far as one person getting into business and making it go, they can do it as far as that. Actually, we've run some owner-operators ourselves to try to help us today. But we pick and choose who they are because they're representing Blue Max. And, I always tell people, I said, dump trucks are related into three. Either they're log trucks, trash trucks, or dump trucks. And everybody tries to lump them into one group. We spend a lot of money trying to make our trucks look better than competitions. We spend a lot of money on cleaning. And I know what kind of money we spend on maintenance. So I don't know if that's the answer you're looking for.
I think it's great. I think it's a great answer. Number one, it's expensive to do what you do.
Correct.
But number two, and the bigger thing is the brand, the Blue Max brand, and the reputation is that you guys are going to run the best equipment, you're going to deliver, and you're going to take care of your client. And I think that's why you guys have been so successful and you've been able to build this company is because people know that. And that brand is it's you. And I know you give credit to your team, but a lot of that credit goes to you because you built that. And it's something that you should be very proud of. We got just a few more minutes, and I want to, here at the Give Us the Dirt, we go a little deeper. We're going to get into what I like to call the dirt right now. So you alluded to it earlier. You said one day you might not be doing this. So are you giving us a clue right now? Are you telling us that maybe there's retirement coming at some point?
I really enjoy what I'm doing. And as far as me stepping totally away from it, Jeremiah might want to help me out the door a little bit because I guess the word I say, I think he thinks I second guess him too much. And I try to sit on my hands sometimes now, let him learn sometimes you learn best from your failures. So I'm doing that. I want to take more time, a little bit for myself as far as that. I got a passion for fishing and I can go offshore and actually his telephone doesn't ring. That's why I like it so much. So I can get away from it for a little while. But no, I'm not getting away. I mean, we're in the expansion mode, if you don't know the truth. I mean, we're now, Blue Max is in Charleston, Savannah, Wilmington, North Carolina, Conway, South Carolina. We've got an operation out of Pageland. Charlotte is the hub as far as that. I don't think I'm leaving anything out, but I mean, the Blue Max brand is what sells, and yet you alluded to, do we have people ask us to go in other places? Yes, we do. And, I'm a firm believer when you stop trying to be the best and when you quit trying to grow, then you get stagnant. So
Denton, only you could answer the question about retirement with we're in expansion mode. I love that. That defines you. That is the Denton that we all know, is that there's no date on the calendar circled. Like, you love doing this. You do it because you love doing it, and you're going to do it till you can't do it. And you're going to keep growing. You're going to keep learning. I love that.
I can't answer that because Diane might shoot me.
Well, she might. She's got it. Her timeline's a little different than yours, right?
Yes.
Well, I got one more question for you. So what would you say? You had a lot of years in this industry, Denton. You've seen a lot. And what would you say to that 18-year-old that is thinking they've got to go to college and they got to go get a degree, or they're considering getting into the construction industry? What would you tell them? Like, what advice would you have for that 18-year-old?
I would tell them that you've got to be committed. I guess that's the main thing. If you're looking for an 8-hour job, this isn't it. I said, if you want that, you need to go to Walmart or a store or something like that, because the trucking business or the construction business in general is daylight dark to a degree. I mean, there are certain hours, restrictions on driving, which we adhere to that with the cost of the law. But they're long days. And when you're working for somebody else, you've got to do what they do. I tell people all the time, I said, yes, I might own Blue Max, but I said, I got more bosses than anybody else does in the world. And I said, if you want to look at it that way, it doesn't matter if it's the hoopball, with Brian McManus, or you take the Frank and Jack with Blythe Development and all like that. They've got all these people looking for them to do it. So they got lots of bosses too.
Great way to look at it.
Yes.
Great way to look at it. Well, if I'm hearing you right, it's hard work.
Yes.
But it's worth it.
It's worth it. I mean, it's pretty cool for me to ride around Charlotte or ride around and see the jobs that we've done. We've been part of some major ones, from some that are really easy to work on and were great to do. And a lot of them had a lot of big headaches involved in them.
And I can't imagine there's been a major project in Charlotte that hasn't had a Blue Max truck on it at some point. And you have been a part of that. Matter of fact, you're a rock star in this city. You're like the Carolina Panthers. You can't ride around without someone knowing your name and blowing the horn, waving at you. You know everybody in this town because you've helped build it. And then it's been an honor to have you here and to share your story with us today. I've learned some stuff which I knew I would. You have been an inspiration to me. You've been one of my mentors. You're an amazing leader, but you're an amazing friend too. So thank you so much for being willing to come on and do your first podcast.
It's been interesting, to say the least. I appreciate it. I don't know if I did what you asked me to, but
you did exactly.
Just like you asked me earlier, this is what you got.
Just be you, Denton. We love you, man. Thank you so much for being with us. We'll look for the episode to drop here in a couple of weeks, and Denton, you'll be famous after that. Get ready.
Yeah, going to Hollywood.
You're going to Hollywood.
All right. See you.